The Real Jail Experiment. Part 1. Shanks and Shakedowns. In 2023, inside the Pulaski County Regional Detention Facility in Little Rock, Arkansas, Sheriff Eric Higgins made a decision no sheriff in America had ever dared to try. He unlocked the cells, not for an hour of yard time, not for a temporary pilot program, but for 6 full weeks. 46 men, many facing charges as serious as robbery, aggravated assault, and even homicide, were given an unprecedented measure of freedom. Their cell doors stayed open. Deputies stepped outside the unit. Daily life inside the pod was turned over to the inmates themselves. It was filmed, packaged, and released on Netflix in 2024 as Unlocked, the Jail Experiment. And almost immediately, it caught fire. The series became one of Netflix's most watched shows, logging more than 63 million viewing hours in its first weeks. Viewers couldn't look away. Some saw courage in Higgins' gamble. Others saw recklessness. Critics called it unethical. Fans called it revolutionary. But beyond the debate was the deeper truth. This wasn't just a documentary. It was a live social experiment. Why? Because jails in America are built on one assumption: take away freedom, take away choice, and control behavior by force. In Pulaski County, Higgins flipped that assumption upside down. He asked, what happens if you give freedom back? If you treat inmates like adults, will they act like adults? It wasn't without controversy. Cameras caught fights, contraband, hooch, even shank making. But there was also something else: order, communication, and a cleanliness the jail hadn't seen in years. Inmates began to police themselves. They began to form councils. They began to run their pod as if it were their house. And the ripple effects extended beyond the pod. The series sparked national debate over the very nature of incarceration. Is it punishment? Rehabilitation? Or could it be community, even in the unlikeliest of places? That is why we are here. This is not just about a jail in Arkansas. It's a microcosm of the larger system, a system where punishment often trumps transformation, and where men are stripped of agency until they forget they ever had it. Sheriff Higgins' experiment asked a dangerous question. What if the way to make jails safer was to give people more freedom, not less? What if the path to accountability was not through lockdown, but through trust? Those are not just questions for one pod in one facility. They are questions for the entire justice system. And so begins the Real Jail Experiment. The doors haven't opened yet, but you can feel the pressure in the walls. Overcrowded tiers. 2 officers for nearly 300 men. Lockdowns that stretch 23 hours a day until anger ferments into policy. That's the baseline this sheriff is standing in when he makes the call. Open the doors. Step the deputy outside the unit. Give the men agency and see if community can beat chaos. Listen, there are still rules in here. There's still a jail. It all depends on how y'all operate and work together. If this unit proves it can't be done in 30 minutes, then we're done. That's not a speech. That's a wager. His name is on the line and he knows it. But before any freedom gets tested, the shake starts. Top to bottom. Bunks flipped. Bottles checked. If there's shampoo missing, the bottle goes. If there's hooch brewing, it gets poured. If there's a blade, someone is moving. One detainee, Chris Napiro Clark, who goes by the name Tiny, says he's been small his whole life, standing 5 feet 3 inches tall. He remembers being 8 years old and deciding no one would pick on him again. I've been stabbing people ever since. For him, the knife isn't just metal. It's the story he tells himself to stay alive. Another man talks like adrenaline is oxygen. Robbing a pet store high, snakes in a pillowcase, an iguana that almost took his manhood, cops yelling "don't move" while he can't breathe under a python's grip. That's not color. That's the nervous system of a unit that lives on edge. Deputies haul out contraband, but pride stays hidden. You ain't gonna see no cell as comfortable as us. They didn't find none on us. Still got all my tattoo stuff. Even the rule followers feel the tension. They take the stuff you need, and if they can't find something, they take that anyway. Every shake raises a simple question. Are we building trust or just proving we don't have any? The sheriff pushes for a clear slate, but he resists turning the experiment into permanent raid culture. If we're doing shakedowns every 3 hours, we might as well not do this. Security without belief kills the point. Belief without security kills people. That's the balance beam this whole episode walks. Inside the unit, power looks for a face. OGs huddle. A power team forms. One man starts talking like a pod boss before there is a pod to boss. We ain't gonna let nobody come in and mess this up. This is our house. Until we go home, this is home. Another man bristles. Another convict telling me what to do makes me buck. You can feel two agendas colliding in the same breath. One is order. One is control. Both swear their protection. Randy, true story. Ramsey steps forward with a different tone. I don't want to be comfortable in here. I want to go home. But if this is where we are, we need to come together as one. He's not soft. He's tired of funerals dressed up as routines. Willie Lovelace asked the question most outsiders miss. What about programs that help people get out of jail instead of being comfortable in jail? I don't want to be pacified. I want to go home to my family and start anew. The sheriff answers straight. That's what I'm trying to do. This is the beginning. It starts with the unlocked door. It could end with truly helping somebody be free and stay free. That exchange matters. It names the threat behind the threat. Not just knives and hooch, but the slow death of becoming institutionalized. Freedom without purpose is just a bigger day room. Purpose without freedom is just a cleaner cell. Meanwhile, the air is volatile. Men have been caged 23-1. People are ready to fight, angry, built up steam. A man's head gets split and he calls it a slip. Someone else calls it karma. You can feel how quickly this could go left. And still something else is trying to rise. A few men talk about cleaning the pod, about organizing trays, about teaching newcomers how to move without stepping on toes. Small things, but small things are where culture turns. When the sheriff finally walks the tier to announce it, nobody is casual. How many of you love being on lockdown 23-1? Nobody raises a hand. You'll be able to come in and out of your cells. The deputy will step out. You'll need to run as a community. If there's a fight, if there's contraband, if communication breaks, experiment over. Then he stakes his belief where everyone can see it. I believe that for whatever reason you're here, that doesn't define who you are. That sentence is the core of the gamble. The system defines by charge. The men define each other by rumor. The day room defines by who can make it shake. He is asking the unit to define itself by something else. Not softness. Not denial. Discipline with dignity. Trust with accountability. The response splits along fault lines you'd expect. This ain't gonna last 30 minutes. We're going to run the pod now. We can do this if we all care about each other. That's poison. He's poison. Even the hope sounds like a dare. Because hope in a place like this has scars. Let's name the stakes clean. If it fails, critics say the quiet part out loud. See, this is why we keep y'all behind the door. If it works, men who've only tasted control might get their first bite of stewardship. And stewardship travels. From day room to courtroom to living room. From 6 weeks to 6 years. But it has to survive the first 6 hours. The practical risks are obvious. Weapons. Drugs. Running ink out of a spades game while the deputy posts up outside the glass. The deeper risk is older than any shank. Pride. Status. Who gets to be the one who talks when the room goes loud? Who enforces without becoming a tyrant? Who yields without becoming prey? Episode 1 forces those questions to the surface. The shakedown is the last act of the old world. The unlocked door is the first act of the new. Between them is a thin hallway where men choose what kind of men they will be. One of the elders lays it out plain. If you got the elders up here, we can take care of problems. We ain't gonna let nobody come in and destroy our home. Authority has to come from somewhere when the badge steps back. If it comes from fear, the pod eats itself. If it comes from respect, the pod holds. There's a difference between running the block and raising a standard. One punishes to prove power. The other disciplines to protect people. You can feel which one the unit is starving for. And you can feel how thin the margin is. A deputy says the quiet thing only a professional will say. Once the doors open, it's terrifying. I hope I'm wrong. The sheriff keeps the spine on it. We cleaned the unit. We prepared for months. Today we open the doors. No more pilot projects in conference rooms. No more memos. It's time. Get involved in it. You can come out right now if you want to. A voice answers from inside the tier with the drumbeat of every county in America. This shit ain't gonna last another 30 minutes. Another voice answers with something older. We ain't gonna let nobody mess this up. This is our house. That is where episode 1 leaves us, on the hinge. Not with a fight scene for ratings, but with a question aimed at the soul. When the locks come off, do you pick up a blade or do you pick up your brother? Do you look for a hustle or do you build a home? Do you make a name or do you make a standard? The sheriff has placed a bet on the best in these men. The deputies have cleared space for it to happen. The unit has a chance to prove that agency is not a weapon, but a responsibility. There are still rules in here. There is still a jail. But there is also a door opening that most of these men have never seen. Not the door of early release. The door of becoming someone you can trust. The next chapter is simple on paper and hard in practice. Day 1. The doors open. Who are you when no one stands in front of the door? Tomorrow. Tomorrow is the test. Not of muscle, not of hustle, but of mind. The locks are gone, but the real prison was never the steel. It's the story each man carries about himself and the one he tells about his brother. If that story shifts, even slightly, the whole unit shifts with it. Freedom will not arrive with fanfare. It will arrive quietly, one choice at a time. Tomorrow the doors swing open. The question is not whether they will. The question is what walks out of them.